China just pulled off the biggest AI heist in history. And here's the wild part. Anthropic got paid for it. 25,000 fake accounts, nearly 29 million conversations, and billions of dollars of AI research potentially copied for almost nothing. And the company being robbed? They literally invoiced the thieves along the way. But before we get to the money question, because that's the part nobody is talking about, let me walk you through exactly what happened, why it matters, and what this means for the future of AI. Because this story is way bigger than one attack. It's about a war being fought not with missiles, but with API calls. Stay till the end, because I've got a question for you. June 10th, 2026, Anthropic sent a letter to U.S. Senators Tim Scott and Elizabeth Warren. In that letter, Anthropic alleged that operators affiliated with Alibaba's Qwen AI lab used approximately 25,000 fraudulent accounts to generate more than 28.8 million interactions with Claude between April 22nd and June 5th, 2026. Anthropic called this the largest known distillation attack on the company to date. Now let's be precise here, and this is important for understanding the full picture. These figures are Anthropic's allegation. Alibaba has not publicly responded to the claims and denies wrongdoing. So we're dealing with one side of the story from a company that has a strong incentive to escalate this politically. But the allegations themselves are specific enough to take seriously. The campaign was specifically designed to help Alibaba's Qwen model approach the capabilities of Anthropic's Frontier Mythos preview model, which focuses on advanced coding, multi-step reasoning, and cybersecurity. This wasn't someone randomly asking Claude for homework help. This was a structured, industrial-scale operation, targeting Claude's most valuable and expensive capabilities. So what exactly is a distillation attack? Because this term is getting thrown around everywhere, and most explanations are incomplete. Distillation is where AI companies use outputs from a larger model to train a smaller and cheaper one. The smaller model learns to imitate useful parts of the more capable system without needing the same amount of computing power. Think of it like this. If you want to become a great chef, you could spend 20 years in culinary school, develop your own recipes, build your own kitchen, or you could watch Gordon Ramsay cook every single dish, take notes on every technique, and just copy what he does. You never get his recipes, you never get his brain, but you get close enough. That's what Alibaba allegedly did. This does not mean Alibaba obtained Claude source code, model weights, or original training data. Instead, Anthropic claims the accounts repeatedly asked Claude carefully designed questions and collected the answers. Those answers could then be used as training material for another model. And here's the cost equation that makes this so alarming. Anthropic has raised billions of dollars and spent years training Claude. Anthropic said the technique is turning billions of dollars in American investment and R&D into a massive subsidy for our geopolitical competitors. But before we get too far into the outrage, let me throw something at you that might make you uncomfortable. You know how Anthropic trained Claude in the first place? By scraping the internet. Books, articles, code repositories, conversations, content that millions of people created and never consented to have used for AI training. So there's a legitimate philosophical question here. Is what Alibaba did actually that different from what every AI lab has done from day one? I'll leave that one with you. Here's something your newsfeed probably missed. This isn't Anthropic's first rodeo with this exact problem. Anthropic has made similar accusations against DeepSeek, Moonshot AI, and Minimax earlier this year. Those three companies collectively generated more than 16 million Claude exchanges through roughly 24,000 accounts. So in 2026 alone, Anthropic has accused Chinese AI companies of running two major distillation campaigns totaling over 44 million conversations through nearly 50,000 fake accounts. This is a pattern, not an incident, and this is exactly the context the US government has been operating in. 2 days after Anthropic sent that letter to senators, The U.S. Commerce Department moved fast. The U.S. Commerce Department imposed strict export control restrictions on Anthropic's Mythos and Fable AI models over concerns about potential misuse by China and other countries. Now, this is where the story gets complicated, and a lot of coverage has gotten this wrong. The Fable and Mythos models being taken offline wasn't just about the Distillation attack. Officials told Anthropic that the government made the decision after learning of a technique to bypass Fable 5's safeguards. Safeguards designed to prevent users from accessing the powerful cybersecurity abilities of Mythos, the underlying AI model on which Fable 5 is built. The White House imposed export controls on Anthropic's powerful Mythos AI model, partly over suspicions that a China-linked group had accessed it. So you had two things happening simultaneously: a massive distillation attack and a jailbreak concern. Both pointed at the same threat: Chinese access to Anthropic's most powerful capabilities. Anthropic received an export control directive to suspend access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for foreign nationals, citing national security concerns. Because the company could not reliably screen users by nationality, it disabled both models entirely. The ripple effects went global. The U.S. export ban on Anthropic's AI models strained alliances, as even U.S. allies lost access to the models, prompting calls for greater AI self-reliance. Okay, now for the part I've been thinking about since this story broke. Everyone is talking about the theft, the geopolitics, the cybersecurity implications. But here's what I can't stop thinking about: Anthropic got paid. Think about it. The whole point of a distillation attack is to interact with the model as many times as possible, and to do that through API access, which is how 25,000 accounts would operate at that scale. You need a paid plan. So, 25,000 accounts across 28.8 million conversations over 6 weeks. That's real API usage, real compute, real cost to Alibaba, and real revenue to Anthropic. Now, I'm not going to throw out a fake number and pretend I've done the math. API pricing varies by model, token count, and tier. But here's the thing: even if Anthropic made millions from this attack, Alibaba still came out ahead by a massive margin, because the cost of training a frontier AI model from scratch runs into the billions. Even if they spent tens of millions on API calls, they may have extracted capabilities worth exponentially more. That's the brutal economics of distillation, and it's why this problem isn't going away. I want to know your estimate. Drop your number in the comments. How much do you think Anthropic made from this attack? So what's Anthropic actually doing about it? One major response is identity verification. Starting July 8th, 2026, Anthropic can require Claude Free, Pro, and Max users to submit a government photo ID and live facial scans through a third-party vendor called Persona Identities. Now, before you panic, and I've seen a lot of people panicking about this, here's what the company actually says. The requirement applies to a small subset of users whose accounts have been flagged for potential policy violations, giving them a path to appeal through identity verification rather than losing access entirely. So it's not a universal mandate yet, but the infrastructure is being built. Your ID and selfie are collected and held by Persona, not on Anthropic's own systems. Persona is contractually limited in how they can use your data and is bound to protect it with industry-standard security controls. But there are real concerns worth raising here. Anthropic says it will collect a person's selfie photo or video and a digitized version as a face geometry template, which some states like Illinois consider to be legally protected biometric data. Anthropic has not specified when this data is deleted. And here's an angle most coverage is missing. Analysts see a specific use case, a US citizens-only restoration path for Fable 5 that could satisfy the export control directive without waiting for a full government-level agreement. If Anthropic can demonstrate that only verified US persons are accessing the model's most sensitive capabilities, it potentially satisfies the foreign access concern at the heart of the directive. In other words, identity verification might be the key to bringing Fable and Mythos back online. Here's the big picture. We are watching the AI arms race play out in real time, not in research labs, not in government briefings, but in the API logs of a San Francisco company. Every conversation is data. Every output is potential training material. And the line between using AI and stealing AI is getting harder to define. China has repeatedly shown it has a playbook for this. The US is responding with export controls, identity verification, and political pressure. Whether those tools are enough, nobody knows yet. What I do know is that this is just the beginning. We're going to see more distillation attacks, more export controls, more identity requirements. The internet you grew up on, where you could be anonymous, where AI was open, where information flowed freely. That world is ending. Now here's your question. Drop in the comments how much you think Anthropic made from this attack. And while you're there, do you think what Alibaba did is fundamentally different from how every AI company trained their models to begin with? If you found this useful, subscribe, because I'm going to keep covering this story as it develops. The Fable model situation, the persona controversy, and what China does next. This is the AI story of 2026, and we're only halfway through it.